Hello and welcome to the live stream. Today we're going to have a bit of a studio tour. It's that time of year, so I do one of these typically at the beginning of every year. So I'm just going to go through and talk through the things that I'm currently using, not just actually for content creation on YouTube, but really the original purpose for starting this path some 4 years ago on YouTube was just to practice the process of making videos in one take with no edits, and that was for course creation. So now with Take One Tech and the various different courses I've got, this is obviously the studio where I make all of that content, but it's also for Zoom calls and just leveling up your general sort of online presentation. So running workshops, webinars, and events and things like that. So that's what I'm going to do, just running through things. There's a lot of things here that are really not changed since the last studio tour I did about 12 months ago. Just a few other things added in. Some different types of content that I'm starting to make this year, including more vertical videos with something other than just this shot behind me. And also I'll be starting to finally record my my new podcast soon as well. So let's just start then with taking a quick look from this shot, or maybe this one might be better. So here is a better shot, I should say, of my desk. So I've got my main monitor over here. This is pretty much unchanged, as I say, since really, I guess, the last couple of years. Let me just shut down a couple of these things. Don't know quite how those have popped up. There we go. But we've got my my main monitor over here. So this is what I sit and work on sort of daily. But then my sort of AV setup, if you like, is over here. So when I'm on a video like this, creating a video, then I will tend to have the output of Ecamm Live, which is the live production software I use. That will be in the teleprompter there. Now, behind that teleprompter, we've got a Sony ZV-E10. So that's the camera I'm using. So let me just switch over to this one. What that is then, the teleprompter consists of a monitor down at the bottom, and then that's reflected in the glass of the teleprompter. And behind the teleprompter, we've got a Sony ZV-E10, if you're interested, with a Sigma 30mm lens. And a lot of people talk about the Sigma 16 being a sort of classic content creator lens. Just note that the focal length is going to dictate the field of view, as in how wide it is. And personally, for my setup, due to the distance between me and the camera, the 16mm just would have been too wide and basically shown too much of the walls that I didn't want to get in the shot. So the 30mm is just a bit of a tighter shot, so it just gives me the framing that I was looking for. But honestly, the ZV-E10 has been behind there pretty much untouched for about 3 years as well. I think I've only taken it out of the behind the teleprompter once for a trip, but basically it just stays there all the time. It's actually on all the time as well. I never actually shut anything down. It's just a case of the things are just here ready to go whenever I need them. So I'm all about reducing friction in everything that I can, because it's kind of my enemy. So anything that's going to be a roadblock for me to actually do stuff is going to be the thing that actually is the sticking point. So having everything here just sort of switched on and ready to go. Obviously my computer's asleep, and I have a single switch that flicks out the lights. But then just being able to come in and basically press a button and then I'm ready to go. It's something that is very important. So if we just go back over here though, so that was the teleprompter. That, by the way, is a 12-inch monitor, and I can never pronounce the name of it. There is the name, though. It's iLocknZ. And it's actually quite a low-cost teleprompter, and I was honestly a little bit wary of buying it at the beginning because it did seem quite low cost, and that is sometimes, you know, a warning sign. But actually, I've been really happy with it. The quality of the glass is great. There's no sort of ghosting, which is where you see a slight double reflection in there. So it's worked out really well. I've got my laptop down here. So this is a M3 Pro Max MacBook Pro. And so that I've got the sort of chat down there. By the way, if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as we go through at any point. But then normally what would happen is if I'm on a Zoom call, I would have the main participants in the teleprompter, and then the secondary Zoom screen would be down there, so that I can see what's what's going on, or if somebody's sharing a screen, then I can pop those down there so that I can actually be still looking at the person but seeing their screen share. But as I say, this is my main sort of working monitor, and then I've got a second monitor over on this side as well, which is generally just for sort of communication stuff during the working day. This one though here is kind of my AV monitor, so this is where I would normally have Ecamm Live. At the moment I've got my little Zoom backstage thing over on this one, but this is normally where all my Ecamm Live controls are for, as I say, all the video production side of things. I've then got my Rodecaster Pro 2. What I've done is I've mounted all of this on a on an arm. Just 1 second. Just pulled my headphones out, I think. Hang on, there we go. I think I must have just got a slight loose connection. Just bear with me 1 second as I get that back in there. There we go. Yeah, I think I just inadvertently pulled my headphone cable out the back. But you can see that that's all mounted together. It's a bit of a hack job, as a lot of things are in my studio. So there's a sort of arm that I've put there that's coming off the back of that mounting. But it just means that that monitor is moving completely with the Rodecaster. So I can kind of push that out of the way or bring it closer to me if I need to. But generally, it's just sort of sitting there. In terms of driving these monitors, because obviously I've got the laptop and the teleprompter, then there's this one, the main monitor, the monitor on the side, and then technically there's also another one over here, which I'll come to, which is on the Elgato Prompter. So there's quite a lot of monitors being driven off this MacBook, and a number of people always ask this is, how do you drive so many monitors from a MacBook when technically the limit of external monitors you can have is 2? So there is an HDMI out from the MacBook, and then if you've got an adapter, you can run a second one from it. And you basically just need to look for some sort of dock that has the display link, I should say, technology. So I use a Wavelink dock, and this has this technology in it which allows you to run a secondary application on your Mac that then can power multiple additional monitors. So that's basically how I'm doing that. Let me just quickly get a link to it so I can show you. It is the Wavelink dock. I'll find the one that I've got. It's something that looks a little bit like this. Let me share that. I think it's where is it now? This is the one that I currently use, and this one's got basically 2 additional monitors. So you can see there that the slots for 2 monitors. You can either use HDMI or DisplayPort. DisplayPort is the type of connector. DisplayLink is the sort of technology. So anything that's got this little DisplayLink logo on it is the one that you want to look for if you want to power external monitors. But this is the particular monitor that I'm using. So I'll just copy that link and drop that into the chat, because that is one of the most common questions: is how can we get more monitors when we've hit the limit? Incidentally, DisplayLink is DisplayPort. No, let me get that right again. DisplayLink technology is what they built into the Elgato Prompter. I've got this prompter here, which is 12-inch, but I do have this Elgato Prompter. One of the things that's great about this is it is a sort of all-in-one solution. So it's got the monitor built into it. It's already using DisplayLink. So what that means is even if you've got full of monitors already on your computer, then plugging this one in is still going to mean that it can run. So Elgato are pretty smart to do that rather than having a standard monitor connection, because it means that no one's going to run into a situation where they buy it and then they can't use it without buying an extra dock. So that's why they sort of built that in. The thing about this is it has got a 9-inch screen, so it is a little bit on the small side compared to the iLockenZ that I'm using there. But then it's more affordable. It's a different price point. It is an all-in-one thing. You don't have to try and think about pairing a monitor with it, and then you can basically put in whatever camera you want in the back. So this has actually got in here a Sony ZV-E10, Sony ZV-1, I should say, and I've just got it behind that little hood. There are a number of different attachments here that you can sort of have it hang straight off the front of your camera lens, but that doesn't work with the Sony ZV-1 because that's got a sort of a built-in lens that is sort of zooms in and out, so you can't really hang it off the front of that. But nevertheless, you can just put it into the prompter like this and then have it sit on the back. What I've done as well is I've actually mounted my capture card directly onto the back of it. So this is an AVerMedia capture card. The reason I've done that is that I wanted this, as you can see, I'm moving it around. I wanted it on this sort of tethered stand so that I could move it around. It's on wheels down there as well. And so because I wanted to run this quite far, I didn't want to be having sort of hefty HDMI cables coming out of it going to a capture card in the computer. So rather than do that, I've just got a short HDMI that comes out of the ZV-1 here, and then one of those goes into the capture card, so that's the HDMI. There's also a USB-C coming out of there for power, and then we've got the USB-C coming out of the capture card as well, and then we've also got a third USB-C which is coming out of the prompter monitor. So what that means is going into this sort of cable here, I've basically just got 3 thick USB-C cables. They are but all 5 meters long. So now that means that I've got a bit of a trailing cable there. It's normally sort of hooked up onto this stand. But that means that this is now sort of free to move around. Let me just take this off my ears for the moment. And then what I'll do is I'll switch over to, sorry for the shaking around a minute. Let me just go to this camera for a second. I will just switch over to my other mic. So hopefully you can still hear me. I'm now talking on my wireless mic so that I can give you a bit more of a tour around things. So let's go back to this. So the idea of this being on these wheels, it means that I can move it round and basically put it wherever I want to put it into the studio. And the reason for that is I've got another sort of set, or whatever you want to call it, another view here that's got a bit of a different vibe. And the point about this is what I'm going to use for my podcast. And if I switch over to that ZV-1 now, which is in the teleprompter, you can see that this is going to give quite a different sort of look to my existing look. I just need to position it in the right place. That's kind of the look I'm going for. And then I've got a second microphone, which would be just kind of here in shot. So that is what this was intended for. So this is another Elgato arm with the Shure MV7 on it. This is the first mic that I bought, and honestly is an absolutely solid mic. I probably wouldn't have changed it by now. It's just that as you start creating content for YouTube about tech, it seems that tech companies send you stuff. And one of the things that I was sent was the Rode Pod mic. But otherwise, I would have still been sticking with this one. They're both pretty well matched, actually, so not a lot to choose between them in terms of price and quality. They're both really solid choices. But I am using on this side the Elgato low profile arm, which is great because it's sort of attached to the desk here, so it keeps it nice and low, sort of out of the way of things. You can still see over the top of it, but still get your hand underneath it. And it's not quite so intrusive as having something that's kind of hanging over the top. However, this one is also the Elgato. This is the Elgato regular arm, so more sort of conventional, if you like. But this allows me to just sort of push it out of the way when it's not being used for this setup. One of the things that's obviously notably absent from this particular setup is there's no desk in front for me to actually sit at. I am going to get a sort of rolling desk that I'll be able to move in and out, and I'm just in the process of figuring out how to do that so that I can basically tuck it away underneath my my existing desk when I'm not using it. For that podcast, by the way, I'm actually going to start using the Rodecaster video. So obviously, you know, I'm a huge fan of Ecamm, and everything on this this computer is Ecamm. However, I do want to be starting to use the Rodecaster video more, purely because I understand that there's lots of people who aren't necessarily looking for a software solution. There's a lot to be said for having a dedicated hardware solution, like if you're in a podcast studio or something like that, or people who are coming in are going to be using it, and you just want to have something set up that's easy for them to use. Lots of advantages for the Rodecaster video, and I've got lots of clients who are looking for that sort of thing in their setup, and people I know that follow along with these things that are looking for a hardware solution. Honestly, I never bothered going down the Ecamm route because the software, from my experience, was just too overly complex for people who are looking for something simple. The Ecamm Mini as a hardware camera switcher, yeah, I had quite a lot of coaching calls with people, even though I don't use it myself, talking people through how to get it set up, and it was not the most logical. It was actually something that was really good, I guess, if you'd come over from broadcast technology, because all of the terminology and the processes are very similar to that. And you know, it had a sort of real professional broadcast heritage, so everything translated over. But as a regular sort of consumer without that background, it was a little bit complex. What Rodecaster have done with the Rodecaster video, though, is they've made something that I think is really accessible. The interface for setting up scenes, you know, similar to the way that I've got these kind of scenes where you can switch between different views and just with a touch of a button. The Rodecaster video is actually great at that. Personally, Ecamm is still, you know, got a number of features that I just couldn't live without, so I'm not completely switching over to the Rodecaster video. But for my podcast, using the Rodecaster video as they introduce new features and test out beta features and things like that, was definitely something that I wanted to do, just so that I can be better informed myself to help other people who are looking to do that. So I definitely do recommend for those looking for a hardware camera switcher, the Rodecaster Video is an excellent choice. So I will be sort of migrating this over onto my my other desk setup, whatever that may be. The other thing that I've been doing recently then is I have been recording short form video content as well, or vertical video I should say, and so I've been using a couple of things for that. So first of all, I have just done some on my mobile, but I've also been using the DJI Osmo Pocket, and I've been using this Ulanzi flip stand, which I really like as well. The thing I like about it is, if I just extend it out like this, when you sort of hold it out like that, because it's got this like angle on it, it gives you a good height with the DJI Osmo Pocket, but it's a more natural way to hold it. What I found with the Osmo, if I was just holding the Osmo itself at arm's length like this, then I would tend to be sort of tilting it, just it felt more natural. So actually having a handle like this, sorry for the camera work here, felt a lot more natural to sort of hold it, and then it automatically put the actual camera part of it, if I just open that up, it automatically put the camera part at a more reasonable height as well. The thing that I like about this for one-handed operation is it's got this little button here, and then if you flick it, the legs just sort of pop out, so you can easily pop it down. I have been using this mainly actually for, you know, family stuff, so filming the kids on their bikes and things like that. So it's easier to be holding this, and then inevitably when one of them fall off or something like that, then just to be able to pop that out and sit it down is really great. It is good also if you're, you know, using it on a desk plugged into Ecamm, for example. This could easily be a great option for a camera as well. And again, this stand just gives it a nice bit of height. Now, the Osmo does come with a microphone, so it comes with this, the DJI wireless mic, and it's a great solution because when you when you turn it on, it automatically pairs with the camera, so that's really great. And you can also start and stop your recording from there as well. However, I did do a short video which was basically just testing the different mic options. So with the built-in mic, with this one. Currently, I'm using a Rode wireless mic here, and this is plugged in, just out of shot, there you go, and this is plugged into this lavalier mic on my top. So I could use this lavalier mic with this, so that's again giving you better audio quality with the Rode mic here plugged into this transmitter, going over to the DJI. But what I also looked at, because you can just take the Rode, wherever it is, over here somewhere, you can just take the Rode receiver from the wireless system, from the Rode Wireless Pro, and then you can just take the USB-C out of this and plug it into the Osmo, and then you can use the Rode system. Now, if you were just after a sort of clip-on mic, then there's no point to use this because the DJI, I think, works just as well. But what I did want to test with this was actually, rather than these kind of mics, was the Rode Interview Pro, which pairs with the Rode Wireless Pro receiver. So that one is over here. And actually, that is ultimately the one that I've gone with. By the way, I've been made a video yesterday about these things. They are the Dock Pops. So this is the blue pop filter that I've got on here. There are a number of other ones over on that side, those different colored ones here. This is actually the one for the MV7. So if you're interested, go to dockmerch.com. But this is the pop filter for this microphone, in fact. However, it does fit nicely on the Rode Interview Pro. But of all of the mics that I tested for using with the Osmo, actually this one is the one that it gives just such better sound quality, like noticeably different to all of those other microphones. So for my short form content using the Osmo, I will use sometimes the clip-on lav mic, but more than likely I'll be mainly using this one. And it does come with a mic stand as well, or at least the holder for it. So that is this part. When you buy the mic, it comes with this. And then this is Rode's DS2 desk stand. And so you can just sort of clip the mic in there. So what I wanted was a frictionless, coming back to my whole thing of friction, I wanted a relatively frictionless way for me to create these vertical videos. It's something that I've seen a big increase in the number of people doing vertical content where they're repurposing their long form stuff using AI. And honestly, I still have not seen any AI tool that is doing that really well. At least not for creating a really nice bit of content. You can go through and, you know, find the good ones in amongst that, but what I'm finding is most people are still just posting stuff that comes out of these AI tools without any real additional work going into them. And what I find is that on the whole, with the majority of them, what you see is that there's no clear sort of beginning, middle, and end to the content. So it's just, you almost feel like you're dropping into a conversation and then you're kind of dropped out of it after a minute or whatever the length of the short form video is. And it doesn't really have that that sort of hook at the beginning or the main content. So I'm finding that the quality of those is still not there. It certainly doesn't work for my content. Whenever I've tried running them through those, I seem to spend more time going through them. There's been a few of the AI tools, I can't remember all the names of them, but where you drop a video in and it gives you some shorts out of it. Every time I've done those, I've just never been able to find anything that I was comfortable with actually with posting, and I've kept coming back to it, thinking that the AI's moved on, and so it's probably going to be better. But it's still just not there, at least, as I say, for my content. And I always come back to this thing of, well, if you can just take a camera, and even if you know the snippet out of your existing video that you want to make into a short, just being able to grab a camera, make the video, and then post it, it's going to be a lot more efficient. And so that's what I've been trying to do. You may have seen on YouTube and on the other social platforms, I've been posting a few more of those short form videos, and some of them were filmed just with my regular camera, but more so now are, my regular phone camera, I should say, but more of them are being done with this now. And having, again, that frictionless way of just being able to switch this on, grab the Rode mic, and then film is really the main driver for that. While I'm talking about stands and things for my mobile here, this is a great stand from Ulanzi. It's got a little carabiner there, don't particularly use that. However, it just sort of clips onto the back, and then it's just a little fold-out stand. So it means you can use it as a handle. So if you are doing something like this, you can hold the camera up like that. And then this also has basically fold-out legs. So it becomes a little tripod there as well, probably getting blocked by my black top. Not good to show black things off with a black top, but there you go. So that's another nice little stand. I find that Ulanzi products are great for all of this sort of hardware. So anything that's like stands. I'll show you another thing which is full of Ulanzi stuff. Here you go, here's one for Rich, that's Rich's face there. But in here, this is where I've got all of the little connectors and things like that you likely need to rig this stuff up. So I'm always finding I'm running out, so always trying to have more of those. But things like this, the Ulanzi Claw, which is a mounting system where you have like a plate attached to it there, and then you can easily just sort of release those. Same with these sorts of things, these little ball heads. So I've got loads of those sorts of things in there as well. But I just find that for that kind of hardware type thing, Ulanzi is a really solid brand for that kind of stuff. Before I continue waffling on, let me just check in with the chat for a moment. I'll also just switch back over to this mic and plug my headphones back in for a second. Let me just see where we're up to with the chat though. This is a message. There was me testing. Here we go. Hey, Mitch. Great to see you here in the Zoom. I think you just jumped on the Zoom as we started streaming. So great to see you here. Let's go down here. Hi, Wayne. Great to see you as well. And we've got Tommy. Great to see you as well. Hi, everyone. Hi to you as well. Any of what you just talked about have replays? Well, technically all of this will be a replay because the video is just there on YouTube afterwards. I have made videos about lots of the stuff that I'm talking about separately, so they will be there on the channel. By the way, another thing that I'm doing more of this year is generally just creating more video content apart from the weekly live streams. Last year, I think I did about, I think it was 6 videos, 6 or 7, I can't remember now, just recorded videos. The year before that, I did only 11 videos, contrasting with the year before that, where I did about 300. So I started off doing a video a day for the first 100 days on YouTube 4 years ago, extended that out to a year, did in the end about 300 and something in the first year, and then yeah, they kind of dropped off as I was only doing these weekly live streams and concentrating more on building out all the video course content for the Take One Tech Academy and so on. So this year, though, having completed the majority of all of that content, I'll be getting back to creating more recorded videos. Not what you asked, I know, but just to let you know, there'll be more coming out on the channel. Any of what you talk about have replays? Oh, sorry, I just see your next comment now. This is what always happens. I read and then get further down to see the context. Action replays. In terms of, is there a feature built into Ecamm to do action replays of stuff? There isn't, and neither in the Rodecaster either. I don't think, although that could be something that could potentially be added. I don't think there's one there just yet, but it could well be something that could be added in as a feature request. Just thinking about the architecture of it. So no, and so Ecamm certainly doesn't have an action replay function built in. There is OBS, Open Broadcast Software. I understand that does have that feature in. That's one of the things it has that Ecamm doesn't. So that could be an option there. But then you've got to do like I did and lose all your hair on OBS before discovering Ecamm. So there is that drawback there. There are a few workarounds with it technically, but there's no action replay built in. Hi there, Saeed. Great to see you here. Could you share a little bit more about your solution having the AV monitor and the Rodecaster the same arm? Yeah, again, it was a little bit of a hack job, as some things are in my my studio. Let me just go over to this camera once again, and we'll switch over to this. So this is just a regular monitor arm, and it's just let me see if I've got the link to it. I'll get the link to that. It's quite a low-cost monitor arm, but it's really strong, and I've got 3 of them. One of them here, one of them there, and actually 4. There's 2 on my my wife's trading desk setup. But what I did was, where that mounts to the Rodecaster underneath, you can see that the plate there is what is normally going directly into the Rodecaster. All I've done is I've got a sheet of metal that has got like a sort of L shape to it. And I've just basically sandwiched that between the Visa mount of the arm and the Rodecaster. So we've got this extra little extension that's coming out here. And then in that plate, as I say, it's a bit of a hack job. In that plate, I've then got an arm mounted off that, which then is going into this plate onto the back of onto the monitor. I've also got a quick release there as well, so you can just sort of flick that little button on the bottom, and then I can easily just slide that monitor off. That is just a really lightweight portable monitor. It's intended for taking around with your laptop. It even comes with a little folio case, so it's really, really lightweight. It's not adding a load of weight, but it just means then that it is completely fixed, and I've just sort of used the articulated arm to mount it just above the Rodecaster, so it means that it does just move completely with that. So if I want to sort of either pull it out or push it out of the way, then the whole thing is just moving together. Yeah, very, as you say, very DIY, as lots of things in my studio are. I'll show you another DIY thing that I just recently took down. It's up there. I'm going to replace what was my well, technically a hair light. So that normally would be a light that was mounted up there that is pointing down at my my desk to give me some separation from the back of the background. What I was using for that was this light, which is a Nanlite MixPad 11 or 2, sorry, and it's like an LED panel light, as you can see. But what I wanted to do was give a little bit more diffusion on it, and so just while we're talking about hack jobs, this was actually a a softbox just completely made out of corrugated plastic, the Coriflute stuff, and then I've got a bit of diffusion in there, and so this was mounted to the top of that. So just another example of the sort of hack jobs that we can do in our studio. This technically should have been able to have been able to have a sort of an extension with a softbox on it. However, there wasn't one available when I got it, so I ended up just making my own, and it's been up on that mounting there for I guess a couple of years, so covered in dust. While we're talking about more hack jobs, this is my OBSBot tail air, which is my top-down camera. To give me the sort of distance over the top of the monitor, I'm using this, the AVerMedia live streamer arm. This is actually a really great arm, and it used to be my primary mic arm. The thing I like about it is it can be sort of an up and over arm like that, but basically all of these joints have 2 degrees of rotation. So you can also use it as a low profile simply by just sort of tilting it down that way. And the length of it, if you want to compare it to the Elgato Wave low profile arm, it's got basically like an extra foot of reach. So if you are on a desk where you need that extra bit of reach, this AVerMedia live streamer arm is really great. Really good build quality, and again gives you that extra reach, and you can use it either as a sort of over the top arm like this, or a more low profile arm. But the bit of the hack job is this is mounted to the back of my monitor, and it's just mounted to, let me see if I can show you this, mounted to a bit of wood that is bolted onto the back of the monitor stand, because the monitor stand, I didn't want to have it sitting on the desk. That's a 43-inch Philips monitor, and I was just honestly worried about knocking it off, and also the amount that it sort of encroached into the desk was quite a lot as well, using the feet that came with it. So that's actually mounted onto a sort of rolling TV stand under the desk, which means that it's not actually connected to the desk, which means that, you know, if I knock the desk, the monitor's not moving, but also it just means I can sort of move it out of the way and have, or sorry, move it back further and have that little desk stand, little TV stand that's sort of back, that gives me more space on my desk. So that was a long answer to the question. Let me come back over here. So let's have a look. Do I recommend the Elgato Prompter? I like the Elgato Prompter for the fact that it is an all-in-one solution, and so for ease of use, just being able to get it and plug it in and it just work, that's great. There are a couple of issues with it, and I think that I've talked about this before, but I think it was, I want to say, let me just switch back to the mic. I want to say that it was overhyped on all the YouTube videos. There were lots of people who got it and tried it out, and this is what we're talking about. It's the Elgato Prompter. Lots of the reviews that you saw on YouTube were people saying, "Oh my gosh, this is like the best thing I've ever had. It's made such a difference to my video content creation or my Zoom calls or whatever that people are using it for." The thing that I think was confused there were a lot of people who were maybe trying a teleprompter for the first time, and the reactions that I saw people having, for me, seem more like that reaction of the first time you use a teleprompter, not for reading scripts, but for having that eye contact during a Zoom call where you know, you are looking at the person. You could see them in the screen here, so you're looking at them, but you're also looking into the camera, and so you've got that eye contact with the people on Zoom. Or if you're recording a video, as I'm doing now, I'm looking into my teleprompter and I can see what you're seeing, so it means that I can be sure that if I put something up onto the screen, I don't need to be looking off at the content or checking Ecamm to make sure that it's coming up, because as I look into my teleprompter, I can just see what you're seeing, so therefore I just know what's going on. And that, the first time you start using a teleprompter in that way, that is a real kind of revelation. So I think that a lot of the messaging around the prompter when it came out on YouTube with all the reviewers was actually them having that experience for the first time, because actually it isn't necessarily the best teleprompter. I actually find that the quality of the glass is maybe not as good as some of the others, and I say that because there's been a number of instances, funnily enough, more so it seems with people using the Elgato Facecam Pro camera, whereby when they're looking into the camera and into the glass, there's almost like a sort of mistiness to their appearance on camera in the output. So not what they're seeing, but actually in the output from the camera, which leads me to think that it's something to do with the light coming from the monitor, sort of dissipating or reflecting within the glass itself, leading to what you see through the camera lens having this sort of quite strange sort of cloudy appearance almost. again, this is not necessarily in everyone's case, but just certainly enough people have experienced it, certainly within the Digital Stage Academy, where we have our weekly office hour sessions. When they first came out, there was a number of people having this this particular issue. Now, it is technically solved by turning the brightness down quite a lot on the monitor itself. However, you know, I have my brightness really high in my monitor here, and my actual main teleprompter, and I don't have such an issue. So there is definitely something peculiar about this, or specific to this, I should say, that is leading to that issue. The other thing about it is I don't actually rate the teleprompter software itself. So if you are having it for creating a script, and you want to, you know, edit the script and do what you want with it, to have that sort of scrolling on the screen, I don't necessarily think that that is the best teleprompting software either. There is also perhaps some of that is skewed for me because I am a Mac user, and I find with a lot of the software, this goes for Rode and Elgato, it always feels to me like a PC first software that's almost been ported over. That's definitely the case with the Rode software. I always find it a bit frustrating where you've got the application and it can't be resized for, you know, Rode Central in the same way that the other apps can. So it definitely feels like they've just sort of ported it across to the Mac. So maybe my experience of the Elgato software is somewhat skewed by that. But it was a little bit clunky when it first came out, and it's still not quite there as a really great sort of teleprompter software. But that said, it is still all in the Elgato ecosystem. So the fact that you can just get it and plug it in rather than having to figure out, you know, well, okay, then I've got the teleprompter, but now I want to use this monitor with it. And that's, you know, quite a costly monitor as well. So the Lilliput A12 is, I think, around about $550 or something like that. This teleprompter itself was, I want to say, about $150. So let's say, you know, $700 all in for that particular system versus this one, which is, what is it? 150, 250, I can't remember, but it's significantly lower cost. Anyway, so yeah, and as I say, you can just get it, plug it in. What you might run into with something like this, where you're running an additional monitor, that's basically just got an HDMI in, and so that is the reason why I had to then go and get this dock. So actually, if you take that, you know, $700, whatever we said, and then add in, you know, a $100 dock to be able to just run an additional monitor, if you're already up to the limit of the number of monitors, then that's adding to the cost again. So the other thing then about the prompter is the first teleprompter I had, actually I don't have it in here, it's just in packed up somewhere, but it looked very similar to this. And I actually thought when this one came out that what they'd done is they just bought the almost like the tooling to the monitor that I had before, because it looked very similar to this, except it didn't have a built-in monitor, and that was the DesView T3. Now that one, I had a 7-inch field monitor for that, which was smaller than this, and it gives that same effect of being able to look into the camera in your Zoom calls or in your content, but when you wanted to have more participants sort of visible in the window, then that's when that 7-inch screen felt a little bit too small, and that's when I upgraded to this monitor here, or this whole setup here, I should say. So what I also found is moving back over to the Elgato, which, as I say, is a 9-inch screen, that then suddenly felt very small again. So if you've not used any teleprompter before, or a smaller one, then this is going to feel great. It is quite a good size. But yes, in a short way to answer your question, do I recommend it? Yeah, it's great for the price and as an all-in-one solution, but there are certainly better options there. And for me, it's like, well, if it's something that you're using day in, day out for your work, then potentially it might be worth the investment in something that's A, slightly larger, and B, I think objectively a bit of a better quality experience from it as well, which is the one that I'm using here. There is a limit, by the way. Somebody once said they wish they could have like a 32-inch teleprompter, because then they could just use that as their main monitor. The point about the teleprompter is there is a size at which it sort of loses its effectiveness, because if you think about what's happening here, I'm looking into there. The lens is obviously somewhere like right about that center, and it means that you can look there at the person that you're speaking to, if it's on Zoom, or look at your content, and you can have that eye contact. Obviously, if you were to have a teleprompter that was literally, you know, the size of this 43-inch screen with a camera in the middle, you're still not really going to get any benefit from it, because as soon as you start looking off axis, you know, if I'd got one that was 43 inches and so I'm looking at content over here, even though it might be behind a teleprompter, the lens is still there that you're looking through. So you kind of lose the effectiveness of it as you get much, much larger. The reason why they do have sometimes very large ones, like in TV studios, they're certainly going to be larger than this one that I've got, would be just for, you know, if you're a lot further away from it, obviously. So yeah, that is the trade-off there that you're making. But I find that this 12-inch one that I've got, for the distance it is away, and by the way, I am sort of like 2 arms lengths away from it if I sort of stretch out. If I just go back to this camera shot, maybe. That's where I am sitting, and then I'm sort of, as I say, you know, a good 2 arms lengths from the lens itself. Just coming back over here then. So yeah, that was a long answer. Hey David, great to see you. Exactly, yeah, it's their first prompter, and I'm confident their next model will address many of the issues people are mentioning. I suspect there will be a pro version coming someday. Yeah, so that's exactly what I said when it first came out. Is I wanted the Elgato Prompter Pro or Prompter Max, so, or the Prompter XL, which is basically like a 12-inch screen. So yeah, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will get better. The software is getting better as well. So I found that if I'm using the Elgato Prompter and I put web browser there, like Amazon or something, then I get the misty look you talked about. Yeah, it's anything that's like really bright, and it shouldn't really do it. I mean, you will always get a bit of illumination on you. So I've got, like, if I make this window over here, so I've just made that Amazon page that's obviously really white. So if I move that all the way over there, then obviously you can see now the difference between that being on screen. You can see how light my face is, and then if I just move that off the screen, you can see that it goes darker. So having a big expanse of white is adding a lot of light. But what doesn't happen with mine, watch this happen now. Now that I've just said that it doesn't happen, it probably will. But if I just move that over onto the screen, it shouldn't be coming up like misty. It might still be illuminating me. But now I've got, and it's really a bright monitor. And apart from it just actually illuminating me, then yeah, that sort of misty thing is a really peculiar thing. And I'm kind of surprised that, I know, as Saeed said, it's their first gen, so these things will likely be ironed out. But the one thing that is important on a teleprompter is the glass, and that usually is the differential. And by the glass, I mean the glass that is in here. The way that it's working is you've got the monitor down there. This is just a sheet of glass in here, and then you've got your camera behind there in the dark, as in it's got the little hood over it. And so technically within that box there is, it's dark in the box, and that means that as you look at that, what you're seeing is you're just seeing the reflection in this glass, and you don't see, the camera lens behind it, for example. But the glass there is kind of the most important part, really, because that's what's going to give it its quality ultimately. And even the DesView T3, which, as I say, it actually looks very similar to this teleprompter, to the point where I thought that they'd almost just bought the the tooling for it, or the rights to the design of it. But still, that one had a much better glass in it as well. And even the Lock and See one that I'm using right now, that's a good quality glass too. What often happens with teleprompters, not so much that misting thing, which does seem very specific to the prompter, but sometimes what you see is ghosting, which is where, because of the thickness of the glass and the quality of it, you're basically seeing almost like a double reflection. So you see kind of two images slightly separated from each other of the output. So this, as I say, this ghosting that you see of the image. But that doesn't happen with the prompter, and it doesn't happen with this one. But it is just odd that that was the thing that they they didn't quite nail. So anyway, let's come back. Hey Aubrey, great to see you here. Hope you're doing great and having a great new year. Let's see. Wish the display was 16:9. So the resolution of the screen, the size of the screen, is a little bit it's exceptionally wide. So what this one is, sort of a regular aspect ratio screen, so it sort of fits in there. Whereas this one is kind of like a more of a wide aspect ratio. By the way, the resolution of that is 720. And so you might think that is a little bit of a low resolution. You know, if you think about a 4K monitor, you might think, well, surely it needs to be bigger. In actual fact, with a teleprompter, I've dropped down the resolution of this. This is technically a 4K field monitor. However, I've dropped the resolution down of that on purpose to 720. And the reason for that is when you are looking at the interface on the screen, if this was a 4K screen, bear in mind that this one is a 4K screen, you can see all the size of all the on-screen buttons and elements and things like that. As soon as you move that over onto a small screen, what actually happens is, you know, you can still see your output exactly the content exactly the same, or the Zoom participants exactly the same. But what would happen is all of these buttons would become really, really tiny. The menu bar at the top would become super tiny as well. So actually, I found that having a lower resolution on the teleprompter means that you still get to see everybody, you know, really well. But it's just the actual interface then that is effectively, the interface is scaled up by making the resolution lower. So yeah. Interestingly, there's a question here. So I'm talking about the teleprompter that I've got here and the Elgato. They are actually going through an HDMI splitter. So what I see on my prompter in front of me is actually the same as what is showing on here. So those two are basically just mirroring each other. Actually, no, I tell a lie. I'm not using an HDMI splitter for that. I'm actually using the inbuilt display mirroring in the Mac. So that's how I'm doing that. They're both plugged into the Mac, and then in the display settings of the Mac, if I open that up, I've just set one of those to mirror. So let's bring that up over here. So here we are in my Mac settings, going to displays. This is where you've got the different monitors that are connected. So we've got the HDMI, the built-in display, Elgato monitor, and so on. And then if I click on arrange, I've got my other one switched off actually at the moment. But this one you can see here, this Elgato prompter and this monitor is basically mirroring each other. That said, I have got HDMI splitters. That's why I confused myself with your comment for a moment, because I have got HDMI splitters. I'm using those for actually when I want to put the output of one of my other monitors to an external monitor separately for me to be able to see it from another angle. And also some of my cameras I've got going through a splitter, so they're going into my Mac, but they're also going into the Rodecaster video. But yeah, I do use powered splitters. Is USB powered ones enough? I guess the power of them is pretty low, in fact. So although the HDMI splitters that I'm using have got a separate power supply, it's only just because of available USB ports on another one. So it's just a case of looking at the rating of the splitter, as in what power it needs. If it can be powered over USB, then it's a case of looking at what is providing that power and if that's got enough power. So for example, like if you look at the CalDigit Element Hub, which is the hub that I use, and the CalDigit TS3 or TS4 dock, but I'll just look at the Element Hub and I'll show you this one. Oops. Element, so there we go. This is the one I'm using. So this one here, the CalDigit Element Hub, that's what I've got. I've got a lot of things plugged into that, actually, my main things. This one has 3 USB-Cs, or actually Thunderbolt 4, and 4 USB-As. So I've got my Rodecaster Pro 2, 2 channels of that are plugged into here. The 2 USB sockets, cables, I should say. And then I've got my Elgato Prompter is plugged into this one here. Now, a lot of people, all manufacturers will always say you need to plug their devices directly into the computer. And they say that, I guess, just to cover themselves in case you plug it into some dodgy dock and then it breaks it. So that's always going to be what they tell you to do. However, I noticed another thing on a lot of the reviews of the Elgato Prompter was where people were saying, yeah, technically all manufacturers tell you to plug things directly into the computer, but actually with the Elgato Prompter, this thing is one thing you definitely do need to plug into your computer, otherwise it likely won't work, like as in directly. That actually isn't the case. As long as you've got got a cable that is 20 gigabits per second or higher, you can certainly plug it into a dock. Mine at the moment is being run off, as I say, this CalDigit Element Hub, so there's no issue with that from my perspective, and it's on a 5-meter cable. So that's how the Elgato Prompter for me is connected at the moment. It's a 5-meter, 20 gigabit per second USB-C cable plugged into the CalDigit Element Hub. I only brought this up, though, to answer the question, which I'm diverting from, which was just make sure that it's got enough power in terms of the power that it can provide. I think that this one is, I want to say 90 watt. Let me see. 60 watt, I beg your pardon. So this one has 60 watts of power available. So it's just making sure that if you've got your things plugged into a dock or a hub, just making sure that they do have that high power capacity to power whatever it needs to be. You sometimes find that there was somebody asked a question in one of our Academy members recently where they'd got their Stream Decks and one of them seemed like it just wasn't coming on. And that can be caused by, if you've got it plugged into some sort of external dock that doesn't have enough power, then it can just potentially not come on. And so that might be something to just look at. So in terms of your question, though, if you've got enough power coming from wherever the USB power is being provided from, then it should be okay. Am I using Ecamm Live to live stream? I am indeed. This is everything that I'm doing here is just with Ecamm. So bringing the comments into onto the screen. That's all Ecamm. Ecamm Live is a Mac app, so I know you know because you asked the question. But for anybody else watching, if you want to get a free trial of Ecamm, you can go to ecamm.com/take1tech. And also, I have made a complete free Ecamm Live masterclass as well. I probably need to put the actual thing there, don't I? Seem like I've not put the link in. Where has it gone? Seems like my little shortcut there didn't put the full link in. I will get it for you, no problem. Let's bring that back up. There we go. ecammlivemasterclass.com is the URL for that, actually, but I'll just drop it into the chat as well. You can find these down linked in the description as well. The Ecamm Live Masterclass is basically everything you need to know about Ecamm from beginner through to advanced. There is a number of quick start guides in there to help you sort of get up and running. One of the things, this is the sort of second time, I completely remade the course basically last year, towards the end of the year, middle of the year. And previously it was 150 lessons or something like that. And one of the things that I understood was sometimes it's a bit overwhelming to go into a course where you've just got, a wall of lessons and maybe not enough time to do them. So one of the things I added when I kind of completely re-recorded all of the content was I added in a quick start guide, which is basically, I think there's 13 lessons in it. Maybe they're like 10, 15 minutes each. But if you just go through that quick start guide, you can certainly just get up and running with Ecamm because it's such a full-featured piece of software that can do so much. But likely there's a few different things that you want to do with it, and you don't necessarily need to know how to do absolutely everything. But if you do want to know how to do absolutely everything, then all of the other modules have got you covered there. Why is it free? It's just because I've got so many other courses around the Ecamm ecosystem, if you like, like my Rodecaster course, Stream Deck course. I've got my membership with the Academy. So this is just a way to sort of showcase what I'm doing for people to come in to see this. It is the complete course, though. There's no catch. There's no hidden fee or anything like that. But it says, if you want to use the technical term, it's kind of like the ultimate lead magnet, and it's my way also of just giving back to the Ecamm community of being so supportive of me in my entire journey. So but that, if you want to have a look at Ecamm, it's a great way, by the way, if you're on the free trial of Ecamm and don't know where to start, and there's lots of YouTube videos out there. I know that I've got I think 150 more videos on my YouTube channel about Ecamm, but honestly, a lot of them are out of date because I was making them from 4 years ago, and there's been so many developments of Ecamm along the way that if you are just want to try out Ecamm, grab the 14-day trial, dive into the quick start guide, and you'll be up and running to really see what's possible with it in absolutely no time at all. So that is my little bit of a shameless plug for my free product there. But that is the masterclass. So yeah, that's what I'm using to produce this. The other thing that Ecamm added in just this last year in May was the Ecamm for Zoom integration, with Ecamm, using it for live production. I mean, one thing I haven't mentioned in my studio, which is kind of a bit ridiculous given that it is the most important thing for me, are my Stream Decks. So I've got the Stream Deck Plus here. I've got 2 Stream Deck XLs, and then actually on the floor somewhere, I've got my 2 Stream Deck pedals, one there, one there. So those are for controlling really the reason why I got them originally was to control Ecamm, but what I discovered, and which is why they've kind of multiplied, is it is also just the ultimate productivity tool to be able to control all sorts of things on my computer. But yeah, to be able to switch scenes. So for example, here you can see all my different scenes. That's my main camera angle. I've got this camera over to the side, another one here. This is my desk camera coming back here. This is this one down here. Where has it gone? This one is actually the one that's usually off to my side, which is the teleprompter. And then I've got another one sort of behind. These ones here are basically sharing areas of my screen. You can see the little icons that I've got there. That represents kind of top middle, top left, top right, and that corresponds to the areas of this screen that I'm wanting to share. So if I click into any window here, I use an application called Moom, and that is linked to these buttons, whereby if I press this button here, it's going to put that window up into the top left corner. So pressing that, it's now positioned that window in the top left. And then now if I go down to the corresponding button for Ecamm and press that one, it's going to share that portion of the desktop, which is how now that is what you're seeing. And that's where what you're seeing on the screen is what I'm seeing on my monitor. So yeah, having the Stream Deck to control Ecamm is kind of like a really important piece of the puzzle. And what I always say about it is when you've got Ecamm, and you're using Zoom, and maybe you're using Keynote or PowerPoint, or you're doing demos, having all of these different components that you're trying to control together can be a little bit complex. It feels like you're managing multiple different things. The really great thing about the Stream Deck is that becomes like the mission control, the unifying thing. So I can control my slides from here. I can control Zoom and participants and things like that from over here, and control Ecamm. So really with like the touch of a few buttons, you can have it, everything to hand. So one of the things though that was added in Ecamm is Ecamm for Zoom as well. And whilst you can use the virtual camera in Ecamm, which means that anywhere on your computer where you would normally select a camera, you can select the Ecamm Live virtual camera. So if you're in a Google meeting, in a Teams call, in Discord, rather than selecting, your built-in camera on Mac or whatever it is, you can just simply select your Ecamm virtual camera. And what that means is that all of the Ecamm production with all of the scene switching and things like that, all of this is just going to feed directly into those platforms. What they introduced though on Ecamm, just as I say last year, was Ecamm for Zoom, and that allows you to do the sort of the loop round, if you like, whereby anybody who's in the Zoom meeting, you can also pull those people out and bring those in as a speaker into Ecamm as well. So that means that you could have scenes set up something like this with you and a guest, and then that slot there where those extra windows are, you could just be pulling people out from the Zoom call and putting them into those slots. So great if you're doing some sort of interview show or a podcast with multiple people, you can easily do that with Zoom and just have the people coming out from there. I also do it with workshops. If I'm running a workshop on Zoom, for example, then what I'll do is I'll deliver the majority of the content, but then if there is questions that come up along the way, then the people that are in the Zoom call, you can, if they raise their hand, they come to ask a question, you can just drop them straight into this scene here, so then they can be on screen in Ecamm when they're asking the question. The benefit of that, though, is that if you're doing a workshop where you want to be able to give people access to the recording after the fact, then you end up with a much more sort of polished output, that rather than sending people to, no doubt if you've done these sorts of things before, you go and attend a workshop on Zoom, and then they say the recording will be available afterwards, and it's just a Zoom recording with, maybe they're doing a screen share, so it might be like a full screen with slides, maybe they're just in a tiny little window as the speaker at the top. So yeah, it just gives you this full production quality to your Zoom meetings and replays and things like that. So that was a very long answer to the question: are you using Ecamm? I am using Ecamm, but that is these are just some of the reasons why I really love it. One of the things that the Rodecaster video, for example, doesn't do at the moment natively or easily is bringing comments. So to be able to create a scene like this, you'd have to do a few sort of workarounds to get comments coming in with Rodecaster Video or indeed the Ecamm or anything like that. So yeah, that is that's why I'm using that. If you're using a Lilliput 12-inch monitor, which iLockenZ teleprompter are you using? Well, thanks. I'm glad you like the content. Let's see. It's actually the 17, I think. Technically, I've got a bit more space around it because it's also the way that they describe them is in terms of the glass size, I think. Because I'm sorry, I'm just trying to type and talk at the same time, and I clearly am failing at that. Let me start that again. When people talk about monitor sizes, what they're talking about, and forgive me if you already know all of this, but what they're talking about, can I get that in the frame? Maybe I need to go to the shot. What they're talking about is the diagonal size here. So when you talk about like a 12-inch screen, or this one's 9-inch, it means it's 9-inch from corner to corner. So that's how the sizes are talked about. What you will find, though, is this is a 9-inch screen and it's flat, but bear in mind that this is now at 45 degrees. Actually, the size of this is considerably larger than 9 inches. It's probably more like about 12 itself, in fact. Get my trusted tape measure. I'm sure this is overkill. We don't need to get the exact size, but there we go. That is 9 inches, and this is, actually, it's just about 10 and a half. So that is when you look at the sizes. I suspect that is what they're talking about when you look at the range of this. Again, apologies for the pronunciation, iLockenZ. But you see here, we've got like 16-inch, 16.5, and I12. Let's see. I'd got a feeling the one that I got had a 17 in it, or maybe it was 16.5. Maybe it was that one. Yeah, it looks like that one. But the point I'm making, though, is as you can see, the glass is considerably larger than the actual screen itself. So this one is 16. And it says there, best fit for 14-inch tablet. In fact, the Lilliput A12 that I've got is actually 12.5 inch. So I think that is the one there. Let me just grab that link, and I'll drop that into the chat. So this is the teleprompter that I'm using, and then the monitor that I'm using is the Lilliput A12. Lilliput A12. Just bring that up so that you can see the cost of it. I said it was about $600 or $650 or something, I think, didn't I? But it's $600 is the cost of that. And by the way, you might say, isn't that ridiculous for the cost of a monitor? Surely you can get cheaper monitors than that. The reason for using this particular type of monitor, which is intended, as you'll see from the pictures, is actually intended as a monitor to be used like with a camera, where you can plug in your HDMI out from your camera and then get a really high quality image for high quality video work, basically in the field. It's called a field monitor for that. But the thing about it is, whereas with a regular monitor, you can't flip the image. One thing that you need to be able to do is actually flip the image round so that when you're seeing the reflection of it, it's the right way around for you. And that's what field monitors allow you to do. They allow you to do that flipping. With a regular monitor, you can't natively do that. You can usually in the Mac software, rotate them. There may well be some other third-party software that I don't know about. I did look for this extensively before spending $600 on a monitor, but there wasn't something available certainly not for the Mac at the time, that would do that. You can use an iPad, by the way, so a lot of people will do that. They'll have instead of buying a field monitor, they'll have an iPad. And then there's a couple of ways you can do that. Either using Duet Display is an app which is available for Mac and iPad, and you basically run it on the iPad, and then that allows you to add it as an external display, and that does allow you to do the flipping thing that we need to do, the mirroring of it. There's also a bit of hardware, I forget what it's called now, Luna Display, Luna, and that is a sort of hardware dongle that goes into your iPad and also into to the Mac, and that also allows you to do the reversing of it, so it makes it easy for you to use it as a teleprompter. The reason why I don't use an iPad as a teleprompter screen is it's just this thing of I want everything always on. I want to be able to just come in and press a button and everything's ready to go. I don't want to have to sort of add in you know, switch on additional things. I also don't want to take up my iPad and have to take it in and out. I could have a second old iPad or something like that, I guess. But for me, I just like it being a dedicated monitor that is doing this one thing. And as I say, I use this sort of day in, day out. There's no day when I'm not like looking into this screen at some point, either for a coaching call, for a session in the academy, or for a live event, or for a recording video or something like that. So because I just use it so much, the cost of it for me was it was just worth it. That's all I can say. So let's see. So to answer this question, if I go back over here, no. So Michael, hey, great to see you again, by the way. Got a long time no see. Thanks for stopping by. Happy New Year as well. No, I'm still using Ecamm for all of my camera switching. The Rodecaster video is on my desk because I've been doing some testing, and I will be using it for the podcast that I'm doing, which is going to be a lot simpler, and I can have. The thing, by the way, that also sets this apart from the A10 Mini is it has like the internal hardware, not technically from a Rodecaster Pro 2 or a Rodecaster Duo, but it's got all of the same onboard processing as this, and you can plug in up to 2 external XLR microphones. You can also connect to additional Rode wireless microphones, either the Rode Wireless Pros, the Mi's, or the Interview Pro that I showed you as well. That can be connected directly to it as well. And you can also plug in the Rode USB microphone. So this device is such a great all-in-one because it's got all of the great audio quality that we know from the Rodecaster Pro and the Rodecaster Duo and so on, with, as I say, up to potentially 6 mics, but you can also then connect up to 4 cameras. And in fact, also USB cameras as well. So technically more than that. So it is a great all-in-one device. I'm still using Ecamm though, because the Rodecaster video just doesn't do all that I need for everything that it is that I'm doing. So no, although it's on my desk, it's not running what I'm doing today. You can do very similar stuff though. So I talked about how the A10 user interface, I don't rate it much. I don't find that it's very mainstream consumer user friendly. Whereas the Rodecaster video, I literally got it out of the box and I had my scene set up replicating pretty much what I've got here, albeit without rounded corners or drop shadows or things like that. But it was very easy for me to get it up and running really very simply. And that is, I think, the genius of the Rodecaster video. They've really taken a sort of fresh approach to hardware switches and combined a lot of the software switcher usability, user friendliness, for want of a better word, that we've got with Ecamm and with OBS, that's integrated into the way that you set up scenes in the Rodecaster video. They've got a great scene builder. Again, it's not matching Ecamm from that perspective, but it still is absolutely great. Any options for an overhead cam? Oh, do you know what? I am loving everything about OBSBot. so the OBSBot Tail Air is what I'm using. Whoops. Is what I'm using up here. There is the OBSBot Tail Air 2 that is coming out soon. Now this is probably overkill for a top-down camera because of the cost of it. I'm just using it because I got 3 of them, and so I used one here. I'll tell you what I would recommend though for a low cost overhead cam would be this: the OBSBot Meet 2. MET2, and that is a really great camera. Let me just get this up. It's super small as well. I will ultimately just switch that over for the OBSBot, but they've got some great cameras. The other one that is great that actually I'm always testing and changing things around, but there is this one as well, the OBSBot Tiny 2. And this is a little PTZ pan tilt zoom camera, and that one used to be the one that I had over as the side shot because it allows you to sort of zoom and pan and zoom and pan and tilt. That is in the name. But that's a great little USB camera as well. But if you're using it for a top-down shot and all you're doing is, you don't need to move it around, that Meet 2 is genuinely just a really great camera, and it's super small as well. If I just bring that up. I'll drop the link into OBSBot on here as well. Let's see, there we go. So this is the OBSBot website, but yeah, the Tail 2 is the new one that's coming. I'll be reviewing that one soon, but it's this thing here, the Meet 2, and let's see what the price of it is. let's see. Where's the price? Oh, buy now. That helps if I click the button, doesn't it? There you go, $116, 10% off. So it's just a really great camera, really small, lightweight. It's just got a 1/4-20-inch thread on the bottom, so easy to just mount to a really lightweight overhead camera. Overhead arm. It's also magnetic. The actual body of the thing is magnetic, so it can just click onto something as well. But yeah, the Meet 2 is great. 4K webcam. Sensor size wise, the sensor size on the Obspot Meet 2 is slightly smaller than the Tiny 2. The Tiny 2, funnily enough, was bigger than the original Obspot, but I guess the Obspot 2 that's coming out, sorry, the Tail Air 2 that is coming out will be a bigger sensor, and it also has optical zoom. So I'm talking about the one that replaces this one. Does have an optical zoom as well. So if you're doing anything with events or anything like that, then that's going to have a better quality. But to answer your question, I would definitely recommend that Meet 2 as being a great camera. So let's see where I'm up to with my. This is what happens. This is what happens with me every time. I go and do some long-winded answer, and then I scroll down and realize that I've misunderstood the question. A low cost for mounting solution for an overhead cam, not the actual camera itself. Well, there you go. 2 recommendations for the price of 1. That's what I'd recommend for the camera. For the mounting solution, I would likely come back to Ulanzi. I mean, I talked about that Ava Media on, but that would be actually overkill if all you were looking for was the mounting of an overhead camera. But Ulanzi, I always come back to them for hardware. So if you go over to them, I will drop this in here. So Ulanzi's website, they've got all sorts of great things in here. Tripods, let's see where it would be. See, they got all these sorts of mounts for lights and so on. And they have got some desk mounting stuff. I'm just not finding it. Phone gear, camera bags. Let's see. Studio setup. That will be in there somewhere. So that is that's a mic arm. There you go. That's the one I was thinking about. Yeah. So this is $50, and they've got these other ones here that as well. But this one just gives you that like clamps to the desk, and then it goes over the top. So I'll just drop that one in. And you said low cost, so I don't know how that fits in budget-wise at $50. They do have a whole system, though, of these things like this, where you can get the different size arms, and then you can buy the different attachments to go on the top of them. Or you can just buy, if you've got an arm already, you can just buy this like little extender. They've got a whole system which is this gear tree that's like generally a higher end. They've got all sorts of attachments where you can just have like one big pole and then mount your entire studio off the pole. It's kind of like cool. I don't need that where I am, but I don't think you can go wrong though with Ulanzi for this sort of hardware. By the way, one thing I haven't talked about in my studio is my lights, I guess, so I should probably just mention those. The lights I'm using are Nanlite, so these are Nanlite Forza 60s. Let me just switch back over to this other microphone for a second. I'll just show you how that's all set up. So the lights themselves are kind of behind there. That is a little accent light on my curtain at the back. But basically the lights are all mounted to the wall. A bit of a mess of cables hanging off there, but that is just some big brackets that I mounted to the wall that the lights are hanging off. I've got another one over here for my other light on this side. So the lights, as I say, they're both the same actual light hardware. It's just that this one on the left side is my key light. That's got a 90 centimeter 3-foot softbox, whereas this one's got a 60 centimeter 2-foot softbox. And by the way, the thing that you see on the front of it, this thing is just a mesh. It's called a grid. But the idea behind that is, as you can see, if I move sort of off axis, then basically it stops the light from spilling out to the side. And the reason for that is you want to direct the light onto the subject, in obviously me in this case. But what it means is the light doesn't then all flood out onto the back wall. So that's what gives the light consistency on the back. that it's not just all blown out by these, you know, relatively powerful lights here. The wash that I'm getting on that back wall then is by these things. So it's the Nanlite Pavo Tube 6Es, and I just kind of made little Coriflute flag here to stop the light from that spilling out on either side and sort of directing it towards the wall. I've then got another couple of those on either side here. Again, just mounted to the wall with little brackets. And so this comes with the Nanlite grid again as well. That is directing onto that acoustic panel. And then we've got the same on the other side going onto the acoustic panel on that side. So that's what's just giving that sort of lighting effect. I've then got little lighting strips that are behind these acoustic panels. I think these were like, I don't know, I want to say they were like $3 from some non-brand Chinese manufacturer off my local here e-commerce site, Lazada, which is kind of like the Asian Amazon, I guess. But yeah, so these could have been better. If I have them on a certain color, I get a lot of flicker because they're not technically, you know, high quality video lights, but they do serve the purpose that I wanted, which was just to add that sort of color to the back wall. That's my camera just adjusting its focus. And then over here is another one of those OBS spots, which is for sort of the angle from behind, looking back at the desk. And this is just mounted onto one of these little arms over here. A few other little lighting things going on around the place as well. So I don't know why I digressed onto lighting, but I just realized I hadn't mentioned it. Oh, I know why. It was because I was talking about Ulanzi and how they make great hardware. This is another good little light. It's a 40-watt light. So for some of that other stuff where I want to use that other sort of wall over there, or for my other short form content, then I've got this here that is just a lot more mobile, and it's on one of these little Ulanzi stands, so it's easy to move around. And then I've got a Ulanzi tripod just over there as well, which is you know, where I sometimes mount my mobile, or the DJI Osmo Pocket 2 as well. So that was why I went down that rabbit hole, was just because it's more Ulanzi stuff that I'm using in my studio, in case you're interested. So let's just go back to the question. So yeah, so coming back to the original source of this digression, for mounting, I would check out Ulanzi for anything to do with yeah, mounting your cameras, microphones, or anything like that. Let's see. Excuse me. Are you using multiple Camlink for an ATEM switcher with Ecamm? I am using multiple capture cards. Yeah, I've got two Camlinks, an Ava Media live streamer Cap 4K, I think it's called, which is the one that is sort of mounted to the back of this. And then I've got USB cameras. So the this one over here, that is a USB camera. This one here is one of the ones that one of the things about the OBSBot is you can connect it either with USB, HDMI, or NDI. So this one is one of the HDMI cameras that's coming out and into a capture card. My Sony ZV-E10 is behind there somewhere. That's going into a Camlink capture card. The ZV-1 in here, as I say, is going in the Ava Media live streamer Cap 4K card. And then the OBSBot that is over there is actually transmitting over NDI, and it's going through Ethernet. So it's connected via Ethernet with that. So all of the cameras are connected at the moment directly into my computer. There is a thing you can get if you want to connect multiple HDMI cameras into your computer. There's the Decklink Quad 4K, which is an option, and that allows you to take in 4 different HDMI feeds, and then you just have one Thunderbolt feed that goes into your computer. It's a little bit of more expense, and then you have to buy an enclosure for it. Let me just show you what it looks like. It's the Blackmagic make the ATEM, but they also make this Decklink Quad 4K. And it's honestly, it's been something that's been on my gas list. The gear acquisition syndrome, beware, is real. It's so much so that I have to warn myself of it every time I have a drink of coffee. But it is, the Decklink Quad 4K is a card essentially, and it looks something like that. And it allows you to plug in 4 HDMI, and then you get an enclosure for it, and then that goes into your computer. So it's a way of taking in 4 individual camera feeds. Now, the thing about it is, it's one of these down here somewhere. The thing about it is, yeah, technically it gives you, as I say, an easier way to connect up to 4 HDMI cameras. You do then, and you can see the price of it there, it's $540. You do then have to buy an enclosure, which allows you to put this kind of card in it with a power supply. Usually would have a power supply with it, but that would normally be, I guess, another $200 to $400, depending on the type of enclosure you get. So you're looking at, around about $700 or $800 to have a way to connect 4 cameras directly into your computer. One of the advantages of doing this is that each of those cameras has its own unique ID, and you never get this issue which you sometimes get with cam links, which is where you've got 2 cam links connected. The computer doesn't necessarily assign, well, it doesn't assign a unique identifier to each one. I understand it's an issue with the Mac rather than with the cam link or with Ecamm. It's the Mac's way of identifying these things. And so what happens is that, you can load up your scene, and if you've got, your camera A and camera B, sometimes they can switch round. That, by the way, is one of the reasons why Ecamm added in the ability to have placeholder cameras. So you can set up your scenes with camera A, like this one that I'm looking in is camera A, and then you could say, well, this one over here is camera B, for example. And then if you come into your computer and you've switched your computer off, switched it on again, and the cam links have switched themselves around, it's easier just to make that change once, and it'll propagate through all of your scenes. However, the thing about it is, it solves that problem, and it's technically less load, I guess, on the computer because you've not got all these USB-C devices plugged in. And as I say, it's been on my list of things to upgrade and try out, but honestly, I've just not run into any problem that warrants me paying for it. So technically, if you want like the best way to connect for cameras, then yeah, that would be another solution. By the way, the Rodecaster Video and the Ecamm Mini, a lot of people ask the question is, can they use that with Ecamm? The thing that you can't do with that is because you only get like an output over HDMI, or maybe at maximum 2 outputs, you can't have 4 cameras connected and then also have them all addressable by Ecamm at the same time, because essentially you've got the cameras coming into the camera switcher, the hardware switcher, be it the Rodecaster or the Rodecaster Video or the Ecamm, but then you're only getting like the output out, whichever camera you've switched to. So if I wanted to have a scene like this, and then I wanted to press a button and switch to a scene like this with a different camera, that would be no problem to do that if I just have one scene in Ecamm but switch cameras. What I wouldn't be able to do is then have a scene like this that's got 2 separate cameras, because at this point, the Ecamm is, you'd have to do it all in the Ecamm or the Rodecaster, and so at that point, you're kind of losing the effectiveness of them. I did have a slight glimmer of hope that maybe at some point the Rodecaster Video might be able to do something similar to what the Decklink Quad 4K does, which is you have 4 cameras coming in, and then you can feed those into the Ecamm as individual camera feeds. Unfortunately, that is not possible with the current architecture. Yeah, I think that if in a future iteration it allowed you to do that, whereby the Rodecaster Video could be, the complete hub to use with software. But I guess their point there would be they just want to make the Rodecaster Video completely match the features that we've got in Ecamm, and then at that point it would be an all-in-one solution. But there we go. Again, another long answer to a short question. Are you using multiple cam links? The answer is yes. I do tend to waffle, so apologies about that, but I like to give full and complete answers. Oh, so there you go, Rich. Yeah, the Saeed was asking about overhead thing, the using PVC pipe. That is a great suggestion. I'm just looking if I've got one of my PVC pipe contraptions around. They're probably on my shelf, just out of shot. All of the I was going to say all of the mess in the studio, but actually there's quite a lot of mess in here, isn't there? But just behind that curtain is a whole series of shelves that was all my studio stuff in there as well. But I've got so many things made out of PVC pipe, exactly as Rich says. So if you've got something like one of these, where's it gone? One of these ball heads. I had one just a minute ago. If you got something like that, one of these ball heads, which cost like literally a couple of dollars or something like that, and then you've got a bit of PVC pipe. You can mount that onto the end of it. Just get like the screw thread that goes in there, put a bolt through a PVC pipe attachment, stick that on the end of a pipe, use the pipe with a 90-degree turn on it, and then you've got that over the edge. Yeah, you could totally make a lightweight over the head camera thing for probably, a few dollars. So there is definitely that. My green screen that I used to use, I don't use green screen now. I've got one which is on the floor, the Elgato one just down there. But in my original studio, it was all green screen because it was in the bottom of my basement, and I thought, I'm going to move out of this space at some point. It was something I set up in the pandemic right at the back of the basement, and I thought, rather than doing anything to make this look pretty, let me just put a fake virtual background around instead. So my green screen, I bought a load of green screen material, and I actually just made a frame out of PVC plumbing pipe with a big frame that was, I guess, about sort of 3 meters by 2 meters, and then some like cross bracing pieces in it made out of plumbing pipe, just with the regular, either 90-degree pieces or T pieces. And then the clips that you normally use to sort of screw into the wall that the pipe would then clip to, I actually just used those clips, pulled the green screen around the pipe, and then clipped them over the top of the thing to then basically clamp the material to the frame. So that was basically a 3 meter by 2 meter green screen that I made for I guess a few dollars out of PVC pipe as well. So yeah, there's me thinking of a low cost solution, having just been talking about how we can make stuff ourselves. Absolutely, that is a great one. So yeah, the Meet 2 though for that actual overhead cam is great. Let's see. Hey, David, stepped away for live streaming for a few minutes. Stream Deck question. Let me see. Did I miss your Stream Deck question? I might have missed it. Let's see. I saw your comment about the prompter looking misty. Oh, I see. I beg your pardon. The Stream Deck course. Could you drop a link to my Stream Deck course? I certainly could. Thank you for the little plug there. I will come back to this in a minute. StreamDeckMasterclass.com. So the Stream Deck Masterclass is in the same way as and I'll come to your actual question in a moment, just for those watching. The Stream Deck Masterclass is basically everything you need to know to get up and running with Stream Deck. And one of the things I mentioned earlier was let's see. The thing about the Stream Deck is I bought it for live streaming, but in actual fact, I found once I got it that it was the ultimate productivity tool. So the course basically talks about, introducing the Stream Deck, obviously, and how to use it in basic setup. But I do talk about using it for productivity. But the other thing about it is when you get a Stream Deck, it is going to be a somewhat of a blank canvas. So you've got all these different buttons and things that you can do with it. But unless you program them and have, the icons yourself, you're kind of left with, as I say, a blank canvas. And I always talk about this in terms of, if you think about how much time, care, and attention and investment companies make in user interface, like even when you get into your car and there's all the dashboard there and you've got the different buttons to control different things. There's obviously lots of thought goes into it with pieces of software, how that's all designed. And the reason for that is obviously, ease of use. One of the issues that people have with the Stream Deck sometimes is that they come in and they're faced with basically just blank buttons. They've got to decide what to put where. They've got to potentially either buy icons or design icons to go with them as well. And that's all going to be something that could potentially either be the thing that makes you use the Stream Deck more or stops you. If you've just got a mess of buttons that are random, that don't make any sense necessarily in terms of consistency of layout and consistency of style, then it's not going to have the same feel when you're using it as something that's well thought out and planned from the start, with some well-designed icons and things like that on them, so that you've got some consistency over the way that you use it. So as you can see, there is a consistency to the style of the buttons that I'm using, and I've designed all of these. You can get them from my store. You get all of my icons when you get the Stream Deck Masterclass as well. But there's a consistency to the way things are done, that I do things on the Stream Deck, and that means that it's easier for me to just get into using it. So that's one of the issues that I think that can hold people back. I speak to people all the time who say, you know what, I've had a Stream Deck and it's been either in a box not being used, or it's been sitting on my desk for months and I haven't got to using it, which is kind of mind-boggling when you think about the power of it. But usually that's the issue. It's this thing of not being able to get up and running with it quickly. And so that's why I talk about organizing your Stream Deck and personalizing it to make it more effective for you to be able to use it. So that's the first sort of 6 modules. Then I go into using it for the ultimate productivity tool. It can be used for absolutely everything in my daily work. It is, you know, setting up my workspace, opening up apps that I need to use for various other different automation things. So it's not just a streaming device, it's an ultimate productivity tool. And then using it for its intended purpose, live streaming and video production, and then talking about using it for meetings and things like that, and then how to use multiple Stream Decks and all this kind of stuff. So that's what's in the Stream Deck Masterclass, and I dropped a link to that down there. But I digress, coming back to your question, David, so apologies that it took me so long to get to it. You have a Stream Deck Plus, an XL, and a pedal, and I wanted to deep dive on using them with different apps. So that is all covered in there. One of the things there about using the Stream Deck XL with the pedal, with the Plus, it's a really great combination. And the reason for that is you can have different sort of pages of actions. So if I click on here, then it's going to go to just another complete page of actions and come back. You can have different profiles for different sort of use cases that you have. The way that I use the Stream Deck Plus then is the dials are for controlling things like my audio levels in Ecamm. I can sort of click through there to cycle through to some other thing that I want to control. So the music level in Ecamm and so on. This one is used for guests. So guests that are coming in Ecamm and where the audio is being captured by that. My Mac speaker, this one I use for when I'm doing screen demos for zooming in and out of the screen. So those dials all have specific uses for that sort of stuff. But actually what I use the buttons for is switching the profiles on the other devices. So for example, if I press this button here, it's going to change what's on that screen. So that then has changed for my my Moom layouts for choosing, you know, how I want to lay stuff out on my screen. But being able to press a button on this one device and it updates what's on the others is really useful, because I have got different profiles set up on this Stream Deck XL, this one, and my 2 pedals. And with a single button on here, I can update, you know, all of the 4 other Stream Deck devices. So they work really well together. And yeah, absolutely, David. That's all covered in that course. So apologies for missing your question. Actually, I wonder if I missed any others. Sometimes it happens. I must have just inadvertently skipped over it. So there we go. Seems like I got up to all of the other ones. I've completely missed your comment there as well. Hi, Neil. So, hi, Neil. Great to see you. So, yeah, the Obsbot Meet 2 or the Tiny 2 Lite as well. Let's see. The Logi or Logi Options Plus, that's the Logitech app, now has spotlight features. Can you assign magnifying glass or highlighter to any key you want? Oh, you can. Oh, I see what you're saying. You can now assign that. All right, I'll have to look at that then. So what I use for my little spotlight tool is this one, which is Pro Mouse. I've been using it for 4 years and it's worked not quite flawlessly, but it's worked really well for me. But it does seem like the developers stopped developing it, and I know that some people have had slight issues with this particular app, and certainly I've reached out to him and hadn't had a response back when I've contacted him. So yeah, this one isn't necessarily getting ongoing support, but it does work great for using it as the little magnifier then to sort of zoom in and out on it, and spotlight and so on. But if that's built into the Logitech app, then thanks for that. I will definitely have a look at that as well. That leads me to believe that I must have missed some other. There we go. Have you? I'm missing all the comments today. Hi, Don. Great to see you here. Have you tried controlling your Pro Mouse app with the Logitech mouse? No, so I do use it with the Stream Deck Plus, but I did mention that I was going to try and assign it to this button. I mean, it's so easy to do. I should have just done it. But yeah, with that button on the side, what we're talking about there is with the MX Master 3, you've got the buttons here, but then there's also a button on the side, and there's also forward and backward buttons here, and this scroll wheel. So yeah, I could certainly assign that. I still haven't got around to doing that yet, honestly, but it's on my list of things to do, even though it's only technically a 2-minute job to try it. I haven't tried it yet. Where are we up to? Let's see. And I think I'm all caught up. Right. Well, with that said, if there are any further questions about studio setups or about anything that I've covered today, you're welcome to drop them into the comments, or of course in the chat before I wrap it up. But if you're watching on the replay, feel free to drop them in the comments. You can also feel free to join the Discord as well. I'll leave a link to that in the description as well, so you can you can get access to that. That's free to join community, and then I'll answer questions in there as well. And so, not my fault, to quote Paul Duncan. If it doesn't start with a Q colon, it's just a comment. By the way, I realised that. So Paul Duncan, Mr. Moderator, the one and only Mr. Moderator, you'll see people talking about that. Like if starting your comment with a Q and a colon, so that it stands out as a question. There is actually another reason for that. If I just share let me just move this screen out of the way. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my comments, share my Ecamm screen, I should say, with my comments, hopefully. There we go. So now you can see some of my Ecamm interface. And here we've got the comments box. One of the reasons why people say, yeah, put the Q colon is because then you can actually just go up to the search box up here. And if I just type Q colon like that, it's going to find all the questions. So if you're ever wondering why people say, put a Q colon in your question, that is actually the reason for that. It's just so that it's easier to search for questions after the fact. That isn't what happened to me today. What happened to me today is I've just been scrolling up and down and lost my place many times, and so I just missed so many questions. So there we go. You're welcome, Don. The Pro Mouse is a great app, so I'll definitely try adding that, because it would make more sense just to be able to press the button to spotlight rather than have the thing open. By the way, I said that it had worked flawlessly for me, but actually not entirely flawlessly. I'll tell you the issue that I had with it, which was sometimes the zoom function would actually just sort of stop working. So the thing where I want to zoom in on the screen there would stop. And the way that I found that resolved this was basically just quitting the app and restarting it. And so what I did was I set up a Stream Deck button to basically do that. So if I come over to here, I had a multi-action, and it is in here actually, I think. So this one here, this multi-action, if I look at the actions in there, basically it does one thing, which is it runs a little thing to quit Pro Mouse, and then it pauses for a little moment and then reopens it. In fact, what's that delay doing there? I think that should be there. So it basically quits the app, and then it pauses for a moment, and then it reopens it. And that thing then is going to sort of restart Pro Mouse for you, and hopefully fix the problem of it not working. So if you do find it, you're running into issues where suddenly it stops working, then just quit and reopen like that. Should do it. Okie dokie. So with that said, thanks, David. Great to see you've got the class, and let me know, obviously, if you've got any questions or anything like that about it. But if there are any further questions, then feel free to reach out. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Thanks also, as always, to my channel members. I'll leave a link to some of the video, by the way, over there when I get around to it. But thanks to the support of my channel members, and obviously, of course, Academy members too. Have a great day. I'll see you all soon.